Ladies and gentlemen, and our listeners, we have today on our show two people whom we may not have known existed as children or preteens, but had a tremendous influence on our lives nonetheless. If you were a fan of X-Men the Animated Series, then you're a fan of our guests, writers of said series and the book X-Men, the Art and Making of the Animated Series, Eric and Julia Lewald. How are you guys today?
Doing well. Thank you so much for inviting us on.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
No, thank you guys so much. Now, you guys put out a book, and we're going to be talking about it. Zane has
This
it in
book.
Covering right
This
up.
book right here.
Yes, and the one right there that you're holding.
Big 4-pound book.
Yes, it's a very weighty book. It is. It's full of very great artwork.
It's actually already made a couple of splashes at my house when I've got it on my my table, and I've had a couple friends come over and they're like, "Is that from the animated series?" And they were like, "I'm like, yeah." They're like, "Man, that show on Saturday morning, it made me keep watching it because." It was one of the first Saturday morning cartoons that kept continuity going.
Yeah.
And that was something that I wanted to ask right off the bat. I was like, how difficult was it to really push that? Because I know that was something you guys wanted to do in the book. You were talking about it. How was that difficult trying to push that through? Saban and all the other executives to not just have a cookie cutter new episode every week.
Yeah. The big it was a tough ask for the network because as we said, when you got animation takes 9 months to make an episode, and so you're hoping it's turning out all right. And if you've got them in order like that, you can't rearrange them. If one comes back bad, you have to wait till you fix it till you get to the next one. So there can be scheduling problems for network and for the the TV affiliates that put the show on. So they're trusting us to write stuff and the production people to get the production done. And that's a big trust on their part, because any other show, episode 5 comes back and it sucks, you just hold it for 3 or 4 weeks and put the other episodes on and there's no problem. But if you, like most good TV shows, if you're doing them in order, then you got to just stop and wait for to get things ready. And they took that risk, and it cost them some money to delay, when we started the show. But once it started, it seemed to really make, like you were talking about, make a difference to viewers. It just hooked them into the show. And for the writers, it was really satisfying because you weren't just writing little 22-minute stories, you'd be writing a whole season of 22-minute stories. And so it's like writing a 3 or 4 movies worth of story that you'd be able to do with these same characters. And that was, for us, it was great. For the network people worrying about if the next episode was going to come back right, it caused them to sweat. So we give them a lot of credit for taking the risk on our part.
And from where I sat, just to clarify who we are here in the world of the moving parts, I'm a writer on X-Men the Animated Series. Eric was what we call the showrunner. He was the guy in charge of all the stories. There's a completely separate art division, and that was headed by Will Mineo and Larry Houston as producer director. They were big and fanboys of the Marvel Universe up until this moment, up until the possibility of X-Men the Animated Series. And Will was sensitive to the fact that the comic books themselves tended to be sequential. You tended to have a story and then it would end on a come back next week, or month or whatever. So he understood that was a part of the comic book
right.
deal.
And since they so loved and respected the comics, they were always looking for ways to be true to them. They knew that, everybody in our creative group knew that TV isn't the same as comic books. It's kind of a different muscle. Writing, the way it plays out, it's a slightly different experience. So you can't just copy it. You can't just kind of thoughtlessly adapt what's sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're making it into the best TV show you can make it, these guys were really keen on, look, we got to respect the spirit of the books. We can't, they'd been on other shows where whoever was in charge, whoever the boss was, just said, "Oh, to hell with what the fans want to see. Let's throw in silly silly dogs and sidekicks and dumb it down or whatever you want to do.
Right. That
these other Hollywood people just thought you could just mess with comics. And the people we were working with all said, no, we're all, it was like an oath or something. We're going to respect the nature of the books. And if it works, great, because other people have it in the past. But if it doesn't work, well, we'll go on to the next project. But we're going to try. And that came from them. I mean, that came from their love of comics. To me and the head writer that worked with me laying out the first couple seasons of stories, we weren't that big comic. I mean, we'd read some, but we weren't super fans.
Right.
So we were just interested in telling the most intense stories we could. But the other guys that we were working with were really cared that we got the X-Men right and that we didn't disappoint the comic book readers. So that came from them.
Okay. Now, how did you guys even get involved with the series to begin with?
Well, it's like a lot of other things. You know, you work in your town and you work at various jobs, and it was a couple people I'd worked with before. The two main people at Fox were Margaret Lesh and Sydney Iwander. She was the president of Fox Kids. He was the hands-on guy that worked with Batman and X-Men and Spider-Man and Tick and all these. That was my day-to-day boss. It was my hours on the phone boss. Those two people, I'd worked with Sydney, like 7, 8 years earlier when I was starting in the business for 9 months. And then I'd worked for Sydney and Margaret for a season of Beetlejuice. That was 9 months of working with them. So in effect, they, people I'd worked with before thought I was appropriate, I was the right tool for the job. That was it.
Context is that Beetlejuice had been on ABC, am I right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, let's go way back, 3 major networks, Saturday morning, grab your cereal, sit in front of the TV. It was either ABC, NBC, or CBS. And in 1990, Fox entered the broadcast sphere saying, we're going to become a network.
Yeah. And they
like the big 3.
And they had to take a few things from other networks. They had to use some old cartoons. For a couple of years, they had to kind of gear up to getting their signature stuff up. But one of the things they were able to do was buy the rights to Beetlejuice, this ongoing successful show from ABC, and play it. And they said, well, we want to make it distinctive from the ABC version. Let's make it older and edgier and 22-minute stories rather than 11. So I did one episode for them just to show them that I thought I had a feel for it. And they said, yeah, how would you like to do this last season for us? And
as a story editor.
So I was able to prove myself to Margaret, to the people at Fox that, okay, this guy, whatever his taste is, and there are different people they could have picked with, different tastes or strengths. At least he's a professional. At least we know he's gonna get the stuff done.
Right.
So
on time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
you mentioned it early on in the book that you were going to be working on and take no offense to Attack on Killer Tomatoes.
Mhm.
That was it.
The
Which would have been fine.
I would have been in for that. I would have come up with the most intense adult killer tomato stories I could manage.
So, well, me personally, I'm just glad that you ended up where you guys did.
Well, and we had met, Eric and I had met at the good old Disney Afternoon, which was just a few years old at that point, or actually had just begun at that stage. That was my first job in animation, my dream job, just to get into Hollywood somehow, some way. And you had come from Hanna-Barbera to Disney Afternoon. And so we each met each other there as writers on Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, Goof Troop, Tailspin.
Darkwing Duck.
That's my group.
Yeah, Darkwing Duck, that whole,
like that.
that whole thing. And then after 3 years, everyone enters the happy-go-lucky freelance market.
Yeah, Disney kind of figured out that, wait a minute, we got these 50 writers on staff. We don't have to do this. We can save a lot of money. Just let them move all out to be freelancers. The gig economy.
Right.
Yeah.
We were way ahead of the curve.
So but it was a great fun time over there. A lot of lifelong friends made at Disney.
A lot of them ended up writing for X-Men the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now a lot of the ideas for the show you guys pulled they're pretty much directly from the comics, like the Days of Future Past timeline. There you go, story arc. Were there any story arcs that you guys didn't get to make that you would have liked to have gotten done if the show kept going?
There were, since we were, I was kind of the cart before the horse. I was assigned to do this, and I had to quickly learn what 25 years of X-Men comics had been all about.
Because let's remember that too. This didn't start with X-Men the animated series. There was, like you said, 25 years of comic books that had themselves evolved tremendously over time.
But I didn't go into the series with any like, oh God, I got to tell that arc of stories, right? I so was in love with issue 274 of Uncanny X-Men. I didn't have any of that.
Right.
So I was just looking to dig out the coolest stuff I could find from there. And so I wasn't really left with with anything that by 1997 when we finished, it was more like each time we got assigned more episodes, like, okay, we've told 60 stories, are there fresh new things we can think of for Wolverine? Or have we done everything that we can think of? Or is it going to get old? That happens to TV shows. Sometimes in the 6th, 7th season, they start losing their steam and they get repetitive. And that's a tough challenge. And so it gets harder to come up with new stuff. But as far as having, I know there were artists and writers that were big X-Men fans that had stuff that they wanted to get on, that say they tried and we pitch it and it wouldn't go over it. Or somebody said, well, this might have been a good comic, but it just doesn't feel right for a TV show. So there were people among our creative group that had stuff they really wanted to get on that didn't make it, but not for me, and I don't think certainly for Julia.
Now, let me jump in here and remind you that when you got the call and got the gig, there wasn't a lot of confidence that X-Men was going to be a success. In fact, there was more confidence that it was going to be a failure. So you were hired for 13 episodes, and those first 13, that first season, those were the 13 stories that you and Mark Edens had sort of penciled out as being, these are the stories, if we're going to tell this world, that we want to tell, to set up this world in these 13 stories. And at the end of the first season, Jean and Scott are having a moment, and it's a wonderful moment, and you had hoped that you would start if the second season happened.
If the second, well, there was something that we got rid of that was going to be the big part of the second season. When Scott proposes at the end of the 13th episode, at the end of the first season, she says yes, they're going to get married, and so we started writing up the second season with them married and her 7 months pregnant and running around kicking ass with a huge baby bump, and then having a double mutant child. So we had written that stuff up just as this would be a cool thing to do with them. We ended up with them saying they're going to get married. Well, let's see what happens with it, and play that out. And that didn't go over very well.
No.
So we just had executives just pull us aside to look. 12-year-old boys are the core of our audience. They don't want to see their mother up there 7 months pregnant kicking, Apocalypse's ass.
In spandex.
In spandex. So that was our naive ambition to do that, to make pregnancy a central part of being an X-Men. Did not happen, but that's the only one I can think of. And that wasn't because it was in the books. That was because we thought it'd be a cool thing to do.
But, a few years later, it did happen in the books. So there was a nice cross-pollination. Can I say that? That there was,
they ended up getting married.
The fact that the X-Men animated series, it only exists because of the X-Men comic book universe. It's nice that some things that happen in the in the animated series seeded things that happened in the comic books.
Yeah.
It was, and I also loved how your creative team was able to take, a story arc and, make it your own, and use multiple story arcs and infuse it into one. Was such an amazing creative idea that you could take, like you said, 25 years of books and storytelling and be able to intertwine them and really make it something special where You know, it was such an adult series, but as a child, watching, Morph, his death early on,
like right in the beginning of the series,
was a shocker. And then taking my heart and ripping it right out of my chest when I think that Gambit is turning on the X-Men. That was never in the original story arc for that series. But you guys were able to take that popular arc and really, really make it something special. And I remember the animated series now more than I ever do the comic.
That's truth. Same here. Like sometimes I even get arcs confused on which happened where. Like so, I'm like I have to think about if it was did that happen on the show or did that happen in the comic real quick. Hold on. That's how
very
great it was. You guys are that's how great it was. I do have one question, and Dane and I were talking before. The initial roster of the show, you decided to pick.
Well, it kind of was originally from Jim Lee.
It was from Jim Lee's, right?
Yeah.
So you guys chose. All right, she's got mixed, mixed ratings from people. Jubilee.
Yeah.
How did you guys? I want to say like writing the character. Like, was she somebody that you guys had a hand in choosing for the show, or was it?
Yeah, at the beginning, there was decided that they picked 4 or 5 of the main characters, and these are all basically 30-year-old adults. Wolverine and Wolverine and Scott, and Gambit was a new guy that the Marvel was high on, so he's going to put in Rogue, Storm. These were all 25 to 35-year-old people that had full adult lives. We're going to be telling serious adult stories with. And there were 3 reasons for highlighting Jubilee. One was we wanted someone brand new because we've been told 90% of the audience are not going to know who the X-Men are, which is hard to imagine now.
But go back. Years,
so in the pilot,
didn't know.
we wanted to have a new character who also didn't know what a mutant was, discovering everything there was to discover about the X-Men during those 2 episodes, along with the audience, could be the eyes of the audience.
Okay.
And so that we thought, okay, and they said we also would like to have a teenager. There weren't that many underage characters at that time in the 90s. There was basically Jubilee or Kitty Pryde. And Kitty Pryde had been used a couple years earlier in a failed attempt on the Pride of the X-Men.
Right.
And that, Hollywood is merciless that way. To them, it's just, oh, well, we tried Kitty Pryde. She's a failure.
Well, honestly, I think Wolverine being Australian that made that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There are many that.
If you want to talk about that, we got that. We can tell you about that now.
Kitty. It wasn't Kitty's fault, but
Right.
Kitty took the blame, and so it was kind of a no-brainer to Marvel and to Fox and everybody there. Okay, you need a teenager. Let's make it Jubilee. She's somebody new. She's somebody that Marvel's high on. So she wasn't. There were a couple other characters that became major that I think the writers had more interest in, like Beast.
Right.
That wasn't listed as a main character to start with, and even Professor X was kind of in the background when people when we were setting up the team. And the more we wrote stories, the more we thought, it's really hard to write without Professor X. And Beast is his own unique character, and I think so. Yeah, there's a mixture. There are a lot. You go to cons, there are a lot of people that dress up like Jubilee. There are a lot of people for whom she's the favorite character because at the time, when they fell in love with the show, they might have been a 10-year-old girl, or they might have been whoever it is that fell in love with Jubilee at the time. So she has her fans. At the same time, I think it was easier for us adult writers to write compelling stories about other 30-year-olds.
Right.
And so that we got a little sloppy, and that we didn't do as much. We didn't service her as much. We didn't provide her with as in-depth storytelling as I think we could have. Looking back, it's one of my regrets.
But I also want to say we have to remember X-Men the Animated Series was a Saturday morning cartoon. We love to look back and remember the stories we were able to tell, the real adult stuff that we didn't back away from. But putting a preteen in jeopardy is kind of one of those things you can't do on Saturday morning. You can do it to an adult. Sorry, Morph, but you can't do it to a young person. So that was part of the problem in servicing Jubilee story-wise. But that is how she got in. That is why she was there.
Yeah.
Now,
Just because you guys already touched on it, and I know it says it in the book that both of you guys loved writing Beast. And you know, did you ever think while first writing him into the story that he was gonna be such a pivotal character of, like you said, Julia, a Saturday morning cartoon?
right.
I gotta look back and remember that he gets in the pilots, Night of the Sentinels, parts 1 and 2. He is captured, so he is taken off screen and put in jail. And okay, boys, they captured him. Oh no, Beast is gone. He's in jail. But his whole arc is, this is an act of civil disobedience. I want my day in court. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make the case for, how we can all get together and be, happy with each other. And you don't realize how subversive that is as a storyline for a kid's show. And yet putting that out there for Beast to do that, to make that statement, I think was amazing.
Yeah, to be honest, Zane, we got pushback on almost all of the main characters. Let's put Magneto, Professor X. You got these two like middle-aged guys, talking ideology at each other while they're battling to the death, and while they're each other's best friends, and which makes to us very cool storytelling. But the people that were looking at these scripts before it became a hit, when they were worried they're going to lose all their money, were just saying, what is this stuff? What's the 9-year-old kid was going to get on Saturday morning with these guys, spouting ideology at each other and blowing up cities, and we just said, trust us. And that's all we could say for like the 9 months until the show finally aired. We believe we've got something that the kids will like, and they really, most of the people in town just really didn't see it until it became successful.
So much of it had been, well, you need bright colors and things blowing up to keep the kids watching. And the idea of layering something else on that was not flying with people. But we're talking about the show 30 years later. It's the stuff that was layered on top of things blowing up and bright colors that I think is what hooked people in, and that gives us this thing to discuss.
Yeah.
Again, 30 years later.
Adult grief for a friend
grief.
that's just been killed, or old girlfriends that have broken your heart, or parents that abandoned you to an orphanage. And I mean, this is stuff that's just, it wasn't very Saturday morning, and but we just really, I don't know. Most of us in creative positions like Will and Larry and I, and Sydney, the executive at Fox, we've been through about 10 years of trying to do ambitious stuff for animation. We got into animation, we liked animation, somehow became our careers, and we kept on feeling like we're being suppressed and told to dumb everything down and not push anything, not challenge anybody, not freak out any kids, And so when this opportunity arose, everybody, like without hesitation, okay, this is a chance. We're going to push it. And if it doesn't work, well, we'll get another job, and life will go on. But we just all felt like we had to do it, and it worked. When it worked out, then suddenly, it's quiet. Like, but what were the problems of the scripts before? Next 4 years was easy. I mean, it's always hard to make a show, but we weren't getting any pushback anymore. It all evaporated the day the show was successful. That's another bit of Hollywood wisdom. It's making money. I don't care what it is.
Right, exactly.
What was my problem again? No problem. It's your show.
No, it's fine. So, all right, pertaining to the book, who had the idea to put this book together?
Dun, 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 dun. Well,
you have to go back
we have
to
to go
this
back
book.
further.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that was her pushing at me because X-Men had not. it had been, the rights had been owned by Fox and Disney, different people, and so
not Disney, not yet. Oh, well, yeah, Disney, yeah.
but so
In 2016, it was
20
all over the map.
yeah, 2015 is about when I started writing on this, and we had all the scripts and all the storyboards and all the notes from everybody up above our garage where we keep stuff from the various shows we worked on. And she kept on saying, nobody's writing anything about the show. This is like a lot of people's favorite show. What's, if we don't write something about it, nobody will. And we tried to call Marvel. They, nah, don't even talk to us. We don't own all the rights to it. Don't even bother. So at the time, so we just put this together ourselves, found a small publisher out here in California, and interviewed everybody, all the cast and the crew.
For the first
executive.
time. For the first time we spoke to the cast.
There's,
never communicated with them.
all the, the guys that did Cal Dodd that did Wolverine, Laura Zahn, they'd done this thing that literally hundreds of millions of people had enjoyed worldwide. And nobody had ever called them to say, hey, I liked you as Wolverine, or I noticed you as Wolverine. They'd never been to a con. They'd never, and so we interviewed everybody. This book came out, and it was very satisfying to us because it's a really detailed history of
oral history of the show,
of what the show was. And then we just kind of were going on with our lives and noticed that the rights were all coming back to Disney. So we got an email from a big shot from a big shot at Marvel. I thought, oh damn, they've seen the book and they're going to make us like
shut
down or something because we didn't get the rights to do it. And it was a reverse. This wonderful major guy from Marvel said, everybody at the office loves the book. Now that the rights are together, we want to do a coffee table art book.
Awesome.
So it was.
And would you like to do it?
Yeah. So that was.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sven Larson.
Sven Larson
at Marvel.
Head of worldwide licensing.
Worldwide licensing, which it was his credit for reaching out to, and it would have gotten done with us or without us, this particular book. But
and they picked the publisher Abrams
Books, who just have done a phenomenal job. I'm glad you've got a copy there because I gotta say it's gorgeous.
It's so great.
I haven't, I've only gotten to read about 2 chapters of it so far. I've only had it for a week. But the artwork in it itself it just really brings me back. And I know that you guys lost it, like the show itself lost a ton of artwork. How hard was it tracking all this artwork down?
Yes.
There are hundreds of characters in here that I was like, oh my God, they got Brainchild and Mojo, and you've got the alternate Rogue Universe characters in here. I was like, how did they do it?
Once we communicated with Sven Larson and said, oh yeah, we would very much love doing this book with the support of Disney, with the support of Marvel. And then we looked at each other and said, oh my God, I was a writer on the show, you were the showrunner. We were not the artists. And it's been 25 years since things wrapped up. Golly, can we even find art out there?
Yeah.
So it became a real detective story for us.
Yeah.
We had Disney Marvel was aware of an agent's a fine arts house here in Sherman Oaks, California, Van Eaton Galleries, who specialize in animation and specifically Disney, but animation cells. They put us in contact with them, and they were wonderful. Boy, they got some good.
Half the cells in the book are from them, but that gives you an idea. There were hundreds of thousands of cells painted,
hand painted,
painted back then, but when it was every 12th of a second was ink.
Cells, and they were going overseas.
Yeah, they're going to, and almost all of them,
and then coming back. And
and they are almost all gone, and so there may be a few hundred of them left out of the hundreds and hundreds of thousands. And this place had some of them. A couple producer friends of ours had.
Larry Houston let us go through. Larry Houston, producer director on the show, let us go through. He had
storage units,
3 storage units, and we got to. It was literally an excavation.
But he's worked on 80 shows, so he didn't know where the X-Men stuff was. So there's a lot of dust sucked up that day.
But so between him and a fella credit to Tom Tataronowicz,
Yeah.
an animation producer who came in after X-Men was wrapping up. Here's how it works.
Yeah, stuff gets thrown out. People, it's in storage places. They say we got 30 boxes of old X-Men material.
We got to clear it out because the next show is coming in to be produced.
Yeah, nobody wants to pay storage fees. So are we going to throw it to the dumpster? Does somebody want to pay us $10 a box for, you know, this?
Oh, no, just someone want to take it away.
Yeah, yeah.
Forget pay $10 a box.
Yeah, yeah. So that's and the other, but the thing, one of the things that really holds it together, there are two artists that were really pack rats about this.
Thank God.
Yeah, Dan Wiesenmeyer
And Mark Lewis.
Mark Lewis. And Mark Lewis did the cleanup on all the character designs.
From the second season on.
Yeah, and so from episode 14 through 76, Mark had every single one of them, you know, in his files.
And he had electronically
and
stored
digitized
them.
them. And Dan did the same thing. And Dan was storyboard artist. So between them, we got model designs for every single character in every single episode. Those guys, without those guys, we would have been sunk.
Right.
So those two guys really helped us out on the
Huge.
character design. But the getting the actual cells was the beautiful cells that knock your eyes out. That was the hardest part.
But what I also love going through it, and as you were mentioning there, the idea that being able to open the book and see some of those flashes, those Easter eggs that flew by when you're watching the show, going, wait a minute, was that? And we've got, you know, the art in here for that. You can, like you said, One Man's Worth. You've got that whole Ultraverse where they're all destroyed or damaged, you know, and you just, oh my God, Gambit's missing an arm. That is so cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I was looking through it and I was like, is he missing? I was like, and then it came back to me and I was like, oh my gosh, he was.
yeah, just so you get a chance to sort of sit back and savor things
Yeah.
with the art book here, and we're just couldn't be happier with how it turned out. Couldn't be more grateful for everyone who participated in it. And yeah.
From what we've gotten to read so far, it's a really great put together book.
Oh, thank you so
it's
much.
beautiful.
And being that the world is opening back up, you taking it on the road anytime soon?
Yeah, we'd love to. It was scheduled, since it came out in October last year, it was scheduled to come out at the New York Comic Con.
I'd never
Mark-
been to New York Comic Con.
Yeah, we were gonna have a
It's a wild time, let me tell you.
we were gonna have a panel and a table, and we're gonna be selling the books, and it was gonna be a big announcement from Marvel saying, look what's come out here, premiering at New York Comic Con in October. And of course, couldn't do it. I don't know what New York's plans are for this fall, but at some point we'll bring it there.
Hey, campaign for us, gentlemen.
Yeah.
You can say
We
we want
definitely
to
campaign for you.
Yeah, because things looks like they're going to starting to open up at the end of the year. I know that's awful quick, and New York's having a rough time with COVID right now. But certainly by next year is the 30th anniversary of the series, so maybe we can play that up at some cons.
Well, I
know.
tell you, after reading the book, it doesn't feel like it's been that long now.
Right, exactly.
It really doesn't.
Right. And looking back on those after all these years later, how do you think that show stacks up against today's cartoons and stuff that are coming around?
Well,
Your honest opinion, you feel free to shoot. Tell them they all suck now. I don't care. They're
Yeah.
done.
There you go. Well, you know, there's stuff. You know, it went when we were doing that show. It was an expensive time. Disney was putting a lot of money into Disney Afternoon in around 1990, and then obviously Batman had huge,
Oh my
beautiful,
God.
beautiful budgets,
You're
and
not
there was a
gonna
lot
say
of
that.
competition in these big action shows. And even though X-Men was just like a medium level budget at that time, looking back, it's a pretty big budget. As we've been working the 30 years since then, budgets have come down and animation has become simpler most of the time. But at the same time, there's some wonderful
Oh my
stuff
God.
like the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
that
oh
movie.
my God, that blew my mind.
Spider. I thought that was the best Spider-Man movie of all the Spider-Man movies.
I agree 100%.
I agree.
And so that shows you what can be done with animation. And Warner's has done a bunch of nice movies,
The direct-to-home videos.
direct-to-home
for the
videos.
Superman and Batman movies. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah,
Yeah, well, their animated series movies are very well done.
yeah. And then so you can tell longer stories. You can tell 90-minute stories. That's really very, very cool. It was something I wish that we would have had access to.
Or have access to now.
But obviously,
Hint,
Saturday
Don't know.
mornings are on.
What did they call us? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some very interestingly strange shows like Adventure Time and Rick and Morty that are just that are just so imaginative. You just say, "Oh my God, that would have been fun to be in the middle of that room, that you know, hanging upside down high or whatever they were doing to get those stories." There has been some very cool and I thought Venture Brothers is amazing.
That was great.
And yeah, so there have been some super highlights, but Saturday mornings kind of evaporated. That's what we all grew up on. And that's kind of weird.
There is no Saturday morning. Yeah, you can't turn on a major network and see a kids lineup anymore. That astonished me when that stopped. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And realizing, talking with you guys here, if you grew up watching the X-Men on TV, that was 5 years that you had your own sort of appointment TV to watch it. And we'll binge watch. And I mean, I love binge watching. I think that's spectacular. But I also think it hits you different if you have to wait. If you have to wait a week, if you have to wait a few months for the next season to start, you know, you absorb it differently. It means something to you.
In the schoolyard, you know, after the new episode come out, that was the
that
talk
was
of the town on Monday morning. What happened in X-Men this week?
That was water cooler talk at the school. That's exactly.
It was, and you couldn't go online, and you know, you couldn't go online at all. but there was no way to immediately like get on your phone and go, did you see that? Did you see that? Was that who it was? Wait, oh no, they didn't do this. Oh wait, couldn't do it.
Right.
So it was very much a sort of personal reaction to the show back then that I think sometimes gets lost if someone just binges a thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We've gotten almost 40 minutes out of this. Oh wow, they went by really fast.
If you haven't done it yet, I'll let our listeners know. X-Men: The Art and Making of the Animated Series. You can get it at all your major retailers. It is phenomenal.
Everywhere. Such a great book. The
art is
phenomenal.
Yeah, the art alone. It's, you know, you didn't even have to put words in this, but the words have helped because the art alone is fabulous. You know, I thank you guys so much for being part of it. You and hundreds upon hundreds of other people that made my childhood better. And, you know, really it was the X-Men cartoon that got me become the big X-Men fan that I became today. And it's, it's sad to say, but you know what some of happens in the X-Men Sense Center, I'm like, it ain't the cartoon.
Yep. It doesn't compare.
It don't compare.
But thank you guys again so much.
Do you guys want to give a shout out to where people can find you guys? Sure. You know, because you seem wonderful to talk to and very easily approachable. I'm sure you got some socials out there.
I mean, they said yes to me, so they got to be some.
That's true.
You know.
If you say yes to this guy, then.
We are working on our website. We do have a website. It's good old xmentas.com.
Okay.
We are on Facebook at X-Men TAS. We are on Instagram sometimes, and I am on Twitter every day, whether I should be or not, at X-Men TAS for X-Men, the animated series. That's how I distinguish it from all the other X-Men stuff. So please find us, you know, and with luck, we hope to get back out there and bring both books to folks. Man, we hadn't started the con circuit until about 2017 with Eric's book coming out. Yeah. We didn't know the kind of fan base there was for X-Men out there. And it has just been like a warm bath of love. And this last year's been a real rough one.
We got
getting that warm bath of love.
Yeah, we got used to it. Meeting a couple hundred new people each week, once a month at a con, and
somewhere,
and now boom, it's all gone.
Well, hopefully it picks up again for you guys. And thank you so much again for coming on. We'd love to have you back at some time just to talk about your history and animation
and what you guys are doing today.
What you guys up to? You know, I'm sure you guys have been up to quite a bit since the show, and we would like to know. So. That'd be great. So yeah, again, thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your day. And
thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Zane.
Thank you. So bye, guys.
Bye.
Wait, are we off recording now?
I think so. Yep.
Okay. Hey guys, if you want to email us like your actual mailing addresses.
Yeah.
I see one book there. but Eric and I have nifty book plates.
Abrams
from
official.
Abrams official book plates
Yeah,
that
we
we
can
can
send you-
sign and send to you.
Yeah,
for-
send you
for your-
signatures.
That'd be
Oh,
great.
that would be awesome. You guys are too cool.
Yeah, no,
So
thank
what would you mold? You want to mold, or would you prefer Marshall?
Hey, you know what? You could use my government name. That'd probably be better. Thank you.
Yeah, so you guys, we'll just pop them on the email.
I will,
We need your full
definitely.
name for mailing it too. You
I
just give
will.
us your full email, your full mailing addresses. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
thank you.
And yeah, we'd be happy to get that off to you then.
Thank you
So-
so much, guys. So
All right.
much. I really thank you guys for coming in and doing this.
Oh, that was wonderful.
That was great.
And you know, like I said, I was just such a big fanboy when he brought this to me and said, Zane, how do you feel about interviewing these people? And he shows me the you know, I didn't know who your names were, honestly. You know, watched the show my entire life, 5 seasons of it, but I couldn't pick out your names, and I was like, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh.
He was pacing
Oh my
literally before
gosh.
this happened. He was pacing back and forth.
Getting my warm bath of love here. Thank you, gentlemen. I needed that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I will shoot you those mailing addresses. Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. All right.
Appreciate it, you
Guys.
guys.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
Have a great
Oh,
day.
you
Thank
too.
you so much.
Okay. And there we